Is it wrong to pray lying down? For many, the image of prayer conjures up kneeling piously, hands clasped, perhaps eyes gazing upward in reverence. It's a posture deeply ingrained in our spiritual consciousness, a symbol of humility and devotion. Yet what if the very act of reaching out to the divine defied these long-held conventions? What if a revered saint, a man whose life was a testament to extraordinary faith and mystical experiences, embraced a different approach? One that might at first glance seem utterly unconventional, even scandalous to the devout. Prepare to have your perceptions challenged, because the truth about Padre Pio and his prayer life is far more astonishing than you could ever imagine. This isn't just about a physical posture. It's about the very essence of intimacy with God, a profound connection that transcends rigid rules and embraces the raw, unfiltered yearning of the soul. It's about a man who, despite enduring unimaginable physical suffering and spiritual battles, found solace and profound communion with the divine in ways that defied societal norms. Many believe that our physical posture in prayer is intrinsically linked to the efficacy or appropriateness of our devotion. We're taught from a young age that respect for God demands a certain bearing, a specific outward manifestation of our inner reverence. But what if this understanding limits our ability to connect with the divine in moments of extreme vulnerability, pain, or even simple fatigue? Padre Pio, the stigmatized friar of Pietrelcina, offers a startling perspective on this very question. His life, marked by intense physical suffering due to the stigmata and relentless spiritual warfare, often left him physically incapacitated. He was a man constantly battling illness, exhaustion, and the profound weight of his spiritual burdens. To suggest that his communion with God was restricted to moments when he could kneel or stand would be to profoundly misunderstand the depth of his devotion and the boundless nature of divine grace. He prayed ceaselessly, not just in the chapel, but in his cell, in his bed, often writhing in agony, his body a battlefield for the salvation of souls. His prayer was not confined by posture, but propelled by an unyielding desire for God. Imagine for a moment a man whose hands and feet bled constantly, whose side bore a wound mirroring Christ's, and whose body was racked with pain almost every waking moment. How does such a man maintain an unceasing conversation with his Creator? For Padre Pio, prayer was the very breath of his life, a lifeline to the divine that transcended his physical state. There are numerous accounts from those close to him, and even from his own writings, that reveal a man who would often pray lying down, particularly during periods of intense suffering or illness. This was not a sign of disrespect or laziness, but a testament to his profound humility and his absolute surrender to God's will, even in his moments of greatest weakness. It was a recognition that true prayer emanates from the heart and soul, not solely from the contortion of the body. He demonstrated that prayer is a state of being, a continuous openness to grace, rather than a rigid set of external actions. His example challenges us to re-evaluate our own preconceptions about prayer, inviting us to consider whether we are truly seeking connection or merely adhering to tradition. The shocking truth about Padre Pio's prayer life isn't that he defied sacred tradition simply for defiance's sake. It's that he lived a life so utterly consumed by God that his spiritual discipline flowed directly from an authentic, lived experience of suffering and grace. His prayer in all its forms was a direct and unfiltered response to his deep communion with Christ. For a man who physically bore the wounds of Christ, his prayer was an extension of that shared suffering and love. To pray lying down, for Padre Pio, was not an act of laxity, but an act of profound surrender and dependence on God, especially when his body could offer no more. It signifies that God meets us where we are, in our weakness and our strength, in our comfort and our pain, The essence of prayer lies in the heart's disposition, the sincere turning towards God, rather than in the external performance. This profound insight from Padre Pio encourages us all to cultivate a prayer life that is honest, deeply personal, and truly responsive to the ebb and flow of our own lives, free from the constraints of what we perceive as prescriptive rituals. His life teaches us that true devotion is an internal flame, not an external display. It's a message that resonates deeply, urging us to seek genuine spiritual intimacy rather than mere adherence to form. The very notion of prayer lying down often clashes sharply with centuries of deeply ingrained Catholic tradition. For many, the visual representation of devotion is intrinsically linked to specific physical postures: the kneeling supplicant, head bowed in humility; the standing worshipper, arms outstretched in adoration; or the prostrated penitent, face to the ground in utter submission. These aren't merely arbitrary acts. They are imbued with profound theological meaning, reflecting the interior disposition of the soul. Kneeling, for instance, symbolizes humility, dependence, and reverence before the King of Kings. It is a physical act of submission, a lowering of oneself before the infinite majesty of God. Historically, saints and mystics alike have emphasized the spiritual significance of these postures, teaching that the body, as a temple of the Holy Spirit, should reflect the awe and respect due to the Creator. Consider the rich tapestry of liturgical practices throughout Christian history. From the early Church to the present day, specific postures have been prescribed for different moments of prayer and worship. During the consecration at Mass, for example, the faithful universally kneel, acknowledging the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. This is not a casual suggestion. It is a profound communal act of faith, a shared physical expression of belief. The prostration of candidates during ordination rites or the Good Friday liturgy signifies complete surrender to God's will, a symbolic death to self before a new life in ministry or spiritual renewal. These postures, far from being superficial, are designed to orient the entire person, body, and soul towards God. They serve as external reminders of internal truths, helping to cultivate a deeper sense of humility, contrition, or adoration. The very architecture of our churches often facilitates these postures, with kneelers built into pews, inviting a specific physical engagement with the sacred space. Moreover, the emphasis on external reverence is not unique to Catholicism. It permeates many religious traditions across the globe. Islam, for instance, has its rak'ahs, a series of prescribed movements including standing, bowing, and prostrating, each loaded with spiritual significance. Even in less formal spiritual practices, the idea of a respectful physical stance during prayer or meditation is common. This universal inclination suggests an innate human understanding that our physical being plays a role in our spiritual expression. So when we encounter the idea of prayer while lying down, it instinctively triggers a sense of discomfort or even impropriety for those steeped in these traditions. It feels like a departure from what is considered proper, respectful, and established. The question, is it wrong to pray lying down, arises precisely from this deeply rooted understanding of the sacredness of posture and the perceived necessity of external decorum in our approach to the divine. The argument for traditional postures is not about legalism, but about pedagogy and spiritual formation. These postures serve as powerful teaching tools, imprinting theological truths onto the body as well as the mind. They help to cultivate virtues like humility, obedience, and adoration. When we kneel, we are physically enacting our dependence on God. When we stand, we are ready to serve and receive. These are not arbitrary customs. They are rich with symbolic meaning that aids in the spiritual journey. Therefore, the surprise and perhaps even mild apprehension at the thought of a saint like Padre Pio praying horizontally is entirely understandable from this traditional viewpoint. It challenges a fundamental aspect of how many have been taught to approach God. The assumption is that such a posture would lack the necessary reverence, betraying a casualness that is inconsistent with the solemnity of prayer. This initial reaction sets the stage for a deeper exploration, compelling us to look beyond mere appearances and delve into the extraordinary circumstances that defined Padre Pio's life of prayer. It invites us to consider whether there are contexts in which the spirit's fervor might transcend the body's conventional expressions of devotion. While tradition often emphasizes the physical posture of prayer, Padre Pio's life invites us to delve deeper, prompting a crucial question that resonates with every sincere believer. What truly constitutes reverence in the eyes of God? Is it merely the bending of a knee, or does it stem from a far more profound place within the human spirit? This is where Padre Pio's radical approach to prayer offers not just an alternative perspective, but a profound comfort, particularly for those of us who grapple with the practicalities of faith in a demanding, often debilitating world. We've all been there, haven't we? Those moments of profound exhaustion, illness, or even overwhelming grief, when the very act of maintaining a traditional prayer posture feels like an insurmountable burden. Perhaps you've laid in bed, unable to sleep, your mind racing, yet your heart aching to connect with the divine. Or maybe you've been in a hospital, convalescing, and wondered if your whispered plea from a reclined position was truly heard. Padre Pio's life offers a resounding yes to these unspoken anxieties, affirming that God's embrace extends far beyond our physical limitations. Consider for a moment the sheer physical agony Padre Pio endured daily. The stigmata weren't merely superficial wounds, they were deep, bleeding gashes that caused excruciating pain, infection, and chronic fatigue. He suffered from numerous other ailments throughout his life, often rendering him bedridden or severely debilitated. In such circumstances, to demand kneeling or standing would be to impose an impossible standard, effectively cutting him off from the very lifeline that sustained him. His prayer wasn't an act of choice based on comfort. It was a desperate, unceasing cry from a soul united with Christ's suffering. This prompts us to reflect. Isn't true reverence found in the sincere turning of the heart towards God, regardless of the body's condition? Doesn't God, in His infinite mercy, understand our human frailties and limitations? The answer, through Padre Pio's witness, is a resounding affirmative. It's a testament to the fact that genuine devotion isn't about perfectly executed rituals, but about the unvarnished intimacy of a soul reaching out to its Creator. This insight offers immense liberation. For those who feel guilty about abbreviated prayers during busy days, or who struggle to maintain focus while kneeling, Padre Pio's example provides a powerful counter-narrative. It reassures us that God cherishes the intention of our hearts above all else. Think about it. During a sleepless night, when fear or anxiety grips you and your body is simply too weary to move, isn't that precisely when you most need to pray? To believe that such prayer is less valid simply because of your physical position is to misunderstand the very nature of a loving God. Padre Pio's life forcefully demonstrates that divine communion is an ever-present possibility, available to us in every circumstance, regardless of our physical state. His example shifts our focus from the external performance to the internal disposition, reminding us that authentic prayer is a conversation, not a theatrical production. And here's a fascinating thought. Could it be that in those moments of vulnerability, when we are lying down and stripped of all pretense, we are actually more open to God? When our bodies are at rest, perhaps our minds, though weary, are less distracted by the demands of the world. It's a moment of profound humility, where our physical weakness becomes an opportunity for spiritual strength. Padre Pio, by embracing prayer in his moments of utter debility, taught us that prayer is about total reliance on God, a surrender to His will even when our bodies fail us. He shows us that grace doesn't require us to be perfectly strong or perfectly posed. Instead, it meets us exactly where we are, embracing our weakness and transforming it into an offering. This is a profound and comforting truth that transcends rigid definitions of prayer, inviting each of us to cultivate a personal prayer life that is deeply honest, intimately connected to our daily struggles, and always centered on the sincere yearning of our hearts. The key, then, is not how we stand or kneel, but how we love, how we trust, and how deeply we desire to be with Him. The remarkable life of Padre Pio offers compelling evidence that the efficacy of prayer transcends mere physical posture, resting instead on the sincerity of the heart and a profound union with God's will. His countless hours spent in deep spiritual communion, often while lying in agony, are not just anecdotal stories. They are documented aspects of his mystical life, affirmed by those who knew him best and by the Church itself. For instance, Padre Tarcisio da Servinara, one of Pio's closest spiritual sons, frequently recounted how Padre Pio would spend entire nights in prayer, sometimes prostrate with pain, other times simply lying in bed, yet always immersed in contemplation. This wasn't an exception. It was a common occurrence, particularly in his later years, as his physical health deteriorated under the burden of the stigmata and other ailments. These aren't just private observations. They are part of the vast body of testimony collected during his beatification and canonization processes, meticulously examined by the Church for decades. Consider the theological implications of this. The Catholic Church, while valuing traditional postures as aids to devotion, has consistently taught that the essence of prayer lies in the interior act of the will, the turning of the soul towards God. St. Thomas Aquinas, one of the Church's greatest theologians, emphasized that external actions in prayer are valuable, insofar as they dispose the soul to better contemplation, but they are secondary to the internal devotion. Padre Pio's life doesn't contradict this. It profoundly illustrates it. His body was often a testament to immense suffering, yet his spirit remained unyielding in its quest for God. He frequently quoted Scripture, reminding his spiritual children that God is spirit, and those who worship Him must worship in spirit and truth. John 4:24. This wasn't a justification for physical laxity, but a lived demonstration that when the body fails, the spirit can, and indeed must, continue its vital connection with the divine. His prayer wasn't about performance. It was about unconditional surrender. Many hagiographies and biographies of Padre Pio, such as Padre Pio, The True Story, by C. Bernard Ruffin, or Padre Pio, Man of Hope, by Renzo Allegri, detail his struggles with various illnesses and his constant state of pain. Yet these accounts invariably highlight his unceasing prayer life, regardless of his physical state. They show a man whose prayer was so deeply integrated into his being that it became almost involuntary, a continuous dialogue with Christ. This profound reality led to countless spiritual fruits, conversions, healings, and prophetic insights that astonished even his staunchest critics. Could such extraordinary spiritual efficacy arise from prayer that lacked proper reverence? The answer is clearly no. The sheer volume of miracles attributed to Padre Pio, both during his life and after his death, serves as compelling evidence of the power of his prayers, which often took place in unconventional physical postures. So, as we explore these fascinating aspects of Padre Pio's prayer life, We've seen how traditional views value posture as a symbol of reverence, and then how Padre Pio's example liberates us by emphasizing the heart's disposition over external form. Now pause for a moment and reflect. If a saint as revered and mystically profound as Padre Pio could pray effectively and reverently while lying down, what does that tell us about God's boundless mercy and his desire to meet us precisely where we are in every state of our being? It challenges us to move beyond rigid interpretations and embrace a more expansive understanding of divine intimacy. His life validates the quiet, often unseen prayers of those who are sick, disabled, or simply too weary to kneel. It provides a powerful affirmation that our physical limitations do not limit God's ability to hear us or to commune with us. Padre Pio's example is a beacon of hope, reminding us that prayer is ultimately about the unconditional love between creature and creator, a bond that no earthly circumstance can ever truly break. His witness empowers us to approach God with absolute authenticity, confident that our genuine desire for him is always enough. The exploration of Padre Pio's prayer life, particularly his propensity to pray while lying down amidst intense suffering, unveils a crucial nuance often overlooked in discussions about spiritual discipline: the distinction between reverence as ritual and reverence as authentic disposition. While the traditional view correctly emphasizes the value of physical postures in prayer, the deeper lesson from Padre Pio isn't an abandonment of these forms, but a profound reprioritization. It's about understanding that the ultimate act of reverence lies not in outward conformity, but in the unconditional surrender of the heart and will to God, even when the body is weak or incapacitated. This brings us to a common misconception: the idea that prayer must always be a formalized, structured activity to be effective or pleasing to God. Many devout individuals struggle with feelings of inadequacy if their prayer life doesn't consistently fit into neat, predefined molds. Perhaps they feel guilty for offering a quick, heartfelt prayer while driving, or for simply thinking a prayer while struggling with illness in bed. Padre Pio's example directly challenges this rigid interpretation. His life demonstrates that God's grace is not limited by our physical capacity or adherence to strict routines. In fact, his deepest, most transformative moments of communion with Christ often occurred when he was at his most physically vulnerable, when the very act of kneeling or standing would have been an act of heroic, perhaps even impossible, self-denial. This wasn't a choice for convenience. It was a testament to a prayer life so integrated into his very being that it transcended the need for external validation. Here's the unexpected lesson from Padre Pio. True reverence, in its most profound sense, often blossoms in the soil of our vulnerability. When we are stripped of our ability to perform, to present a perfect image, that's when our prayer becomes truly authentic. It's in the quiet, desperate whispers from a hospital bed, the silent cries from a place of chronic pain, or even the weary sighs of a fatigued parent, that God hears a unique kind of prayer. This isn't to say that kneeling, bowing, or standing are unimportant. They are powerful aids, beautiful expressions, and vital traditions that help orient us towards God. But they are means to an end, not the end itself. The end is communion with the divine, a loving relationship that embraces all facets of our humanity, including our weaknesses. Furthermore, Padre Pio's life offers a powerful counter-narrative to the modern tendency to equate spiritual discipline solely with visible, active engagement. In an age where productivity often defines worth, even in spiritual circles, his example reminds us of the profound value of passive suffering offered to God and of prayer that stems from a place of utter dependence. He didn't always do great things in the conventional sense. Especially in his later years, he suffered greatly and he prayed ceaselessly, often from a position of physical helplessness. This subtle yet profound distinction underscores a crucial aspect of Christian spirituality. Sometimes our greatest offering to God is simply our presence, our willingness to suffer with Christ, and our heartfelt plea, regardless of our physical posture. It teaches us that grace operates not just through our strength, but powerfully through our weakness. It's a reminder that prayer is ultimately a gift of self, offered in whatever state we find ourselves, knowing that God's loving gaze penetrates beyond the external, directly into the depths of our soul. So, is it wrong to pray lying down? As we've journeyed through the remarkable life of Padre Pio, the answer becomes resoundingly clear. Absolutely not. His profound witness reminds us that the true essence of prayer lies not in rigid adherence to physical postures, but in the sincere disposition of the heart and an authentic, vulnerable connection with God. Padre Pio, a saint whose body bore the very wounds of Christ, proved that genuine reverence blossoms even in profound suffering and physical incapacitation. He teaches us that God meets us exactly where we are, in our moments of weakness, our exhaustion, our pain, and even in our bedridden states. The power of prayer is found in its authenticity, not its external performance. His life is a powerful liberation for every believer. It frees us from the burden of feeling inadequate if our prayers don't always fit a conventional mold. It reassures us that our quiet whispers, our heartfelt cries from any position, are heard and cherished by a loving God who looks beyond the outward form and into the depths of our souls. Padre Pio's legacy is a call to deeper intimacy, a profound invitation to embrace a prayer life that is honest, unvarnished, and utterly dependent on divine grace. This understanding allows us to approach God with a confidence rooted in love, knowing that our sincere desire to connect with Him is always enough. Let Padre Pio's example transform your understanding of prayer, turning every moment, every position, into a potential sanctuary for divine communion. Your next step in faith. If Padre Pio's incredible journey has touched your heart and offered you a new perspective on prayer, don't let this moment of inspiration fade. Your spiritual journey is precious, and we're here to walk it with you. First, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel right now. Click that subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll never miss another inspiring video about Padre Pio, the saints, and Catholic spirituality. Join our growing community as we explore the rich traditions and timeless wisdom of our Did this video bring you a new insight or offer you some peace? If it brought you even a flicker of light, please give this video a like. Your simple click helps this message reach even more people who might be struggling with similar questions, allowing Padre Pio's profound wisdom to spread further. We'd love to hear from you. What's your biggest reflection on today's topic? How does Padre Pio's example change your personal prayer life? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments section below. Your perspective is incredibly valuable to our community, and it truly enriches the discussion. Finally, if you know someone who could benefit from this powerful message, perhaps a friend struggling with illness or a family member feeling inadequate in their prayer, please share this video with them. A simple share can inspire others and help them discover the liberating truth about authentic prayer. Remember, prayer is not about perfection, it's about connection. May Padre Pio's unwavering faith ignite a deeper, more authentic prayer life within you. Continue seeking, continue praying, and always trust in God's boundless love.